Hey everybody, it's Anna J. Walner with the author of Library, and with me today I'm ecstatic to have author Jenna Greene. Jenna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Jenna Greene. I'm a YA fantasy author, and also the co-host of the Quill and Ink podcast with Miranda O. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show today, and I will make sure to have that link to the podcast. Everybody, this is just an awesome day for learning about new podcasts. So I will have that link down below if you want to check out even more great authors that have been on the show. But Jennifer is also the author of the Reborn Marks series, and Renew is the latest book in the series. Is this a duology, or are we going to see the series continue?
It's a trilogy.
Wow.
The third book in the series is written, and it's done its first round of edits. But if anyone is in the biz or is in writing, it's going to be edited about 5 more times. So it's got a little bit more to its journey left, but the basic story is done. And so I know how the whole trilogy goes, and I have that in my mind, and I have that secret in my pocket. So I'm a little lucky. I'm the only one at this point. But Renew is the second book, and it's really the first book is wonderful, delightful. It won an award. But the second book really moves the journey forward and makes it that trilogy and continues it into, a bigger sphere. So you definitely want to check out book 2.
Would you say that it incorporates quite a bit of world building, or are you more focused on the characters themselves, Lexil and the other characters in the book?
It
Did
definitely
I say that
has
right? Lexil?
Lexil, yes, Lexil.
Lexil.
It definitely has its elements of world building. But I mean, a lot of the world building is done in book 1. And then this is just, expanding. So if we've got a world this big, we're just kind of expanding it a little bit more as Lexil learns more, but also as new characters are introduced. Because not only do you get her interaction with them, or like Finn, his interaction with them, but then their knowledge and their experience and their perspective. So the world widens a little bit, but if you've read the first book, you should be fairly settled into this world and have a good understanding of what's going on.
So this is a dystopian world that she finds herself in, and I absolutely love the dystopian genre and vibe games like Fallout. I'm totally there for that. So I have to check out the series. I love the whole dystopian genre. How does yours differ from others in the genre?
Well, sometimes with dystopian, you have people that think they're in an idyllic world, and then they find out later it's not. That would be like The Giver. Then you have books like The Hunger Games, where they know the whole time it's a pretty crap world. Lexil's situation's a little unique in that, she's known about this world forever, but she wasn't part of the lower class until her memory marks appear. Usually that happens when you're young. It happens to her when she's a teenager. So she's grown up thinking she could have freedom, and then suddenly, boom, gone. And then there's a lot of questions whether this myth that you have these marks, therefore you've lived before, there you have a connection to the past. Some people think that's all fake. It's not true. It's just an excuse to enslave people. And other people think, yeah, it's totally true. And so we juggle throughout the whole series. Is it true? Is it not? Is it partially true? Is it, so there's that juggle. And book 2 and 3 are really going to move that mythology along, and we find out what's true and what's not.
Oh wow, yeah, you've already got me. I mean, I'm hooked. I want to read the series now, like for real. And this is a young adult series, correct? Which I love reading young adult. There's such a people don't understand. I'm 40 years old. I love reading young adult.
I'm 39 and a half, so I love reading young adult. I love writing young adult. And every time My publicist says, hey, put a blog post out for this site. I'm always writing about why I love YA, why YA, why YA, because you can do things in that genre that maybe you can't do in others. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I mean, if you're writing for adults and you have magic or you have this society, you have to explain it for like 500 pages.
Right.
In YA, you can just explain it in a few pages and people are like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's how it works. Okay. Like there's that believability factor. But honestly, as much as YA is for that young adult audience, they say the second highest readership is women from the age of 25 to whatever. So it's as much for adults as it is. Yeah, and I'm one of them. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really common misconception that YA is only read by young adults, and I think that goes back to, you know, just a bit of nostalgia for us whenever we first started getting into reading heavily. I know was, you know, in my junior high school years, and those YA books that were out at the time in the 90s, you know, you were obsessed with them. So that's why it's such a fun genre for me to write and for you to write and to read.
Yeah, there's just some really quality literature with creative ideas. And so why would you not want to read a book that's brilliant, whether it's main characters young or old? I've read books about people older than me, so I can read them about people younger than me.
Very true. And too, you know, YA tends to be just an enjoyable experience. Whereas if you pick up something that's, you know, an adult like political thriller or something like that, you're forced to think a little bit harder. And maybe this is just my you know, lazy reader tendencies, but I just sometimes want to escape into a book that's a fun, easy read where I can
It's
be
fast paced.
yeah,
Yeah, the
and
pace is a lot different. I was reading over Christmas a book because I have these, my sister
yes.
gave me a chart and she's like a scratch off book thing, and it's like all these classics, and I've read a lot of them. I was an English major, I've read about half of them, but there was a few I hadn't. So I picked up Atonement and I was like, I'm gonna read this and scratch off my thing. I was like 200 pages in and my husband's like, what's it about? I'm like, I don't know yet. Right. And I mean, that book is an award winner. It's been made into a movie. It's brilliant, but you all, it's not what I want to read all the time. You read a YA, you know, 30 pages in, maybe not the whole story, but you've got a good grasp on, you know, things have happened. There is action. There is
Right.
like every chapter ends on a cliffhanger. It is
Yeah.
a wild, fun, fast-paced ride, but you still have all these great themes and all these great questions that are brought up about perspective and identity and oh, it's just it's very rich in YA. It's just a little bit more condensed a story than maybe the adult
It's
literature.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's more fun to write. You know, like
Oh yeah,
that.
you can do things that maybe you can't. I've never written for adults, so I don't know. That's why I keep saying maybe you can do it in adult. I don't know. But
Right.
yeah, you can just do stuff in
I,
YA. You just can.
for adults, high fantasy is, you know, we're talking, you know, tones that are that are this, you know, this deep. Yeah, exactly. And precisely. And so it's really quite an investment. And with YA, you know, you can, you know, you've got this whole entire series that is enjoyable and immersive and exciting to read. And sometimes you don't want the series to end. Do you feel that way right now, working on the last book?
Um, oh, that's a tough one. I
I
don't know. No,
know.
when I, you know, and again, the third book still needs a little bit of work, but the third book, writing it took me on the journey. The first two I wrote, and the third book kind of wrote me. Lexel told her story, you know, Finn told his story. Some characters that are introduced in the second book, they took me on the ride, and it was really just finding a way to wrap up this series. And I had, you know, I always know how my book's going to start and end, and I don't always know the middle. So it was like, how am I going to get all the way over there? I am, right? So it was quite an adventure. But when I kind of wrapped up that draft, it felt very full, it felt very complete, and it felt done. I had told that story. And I, now I'm ready to kind of try on some new projects and new adventures. But again, it still needs editing. I want to see what they're going to do for the cover for the third one, because I just love the covers that my publisher designs for me. So and I want to see how readers react. I know my niece, she read the Renew, this new one, and she got to the end and I almost got punched. So I want to see if maybe at the end of the third one she'll hug me or cry or maybe hit me again, but we'll see.
No, you also have the Imagine series as well, which delves into all things magic. Is this a YA series as well?
It is. In terms of fantasy, it's more of the high fantasy. Dystopian's kind of in that low fantasy subgenre, but the Imagine series is much in that high fantasy. You have magic, you have elves, you have dwarves, all sorts of creatures that I've made up. And that's a series I've had a hard time letting go of, because it's going to be 4 books and I've only written the first 3.
Oh,
And I know, and every time I come back to the 4th one, so I've got some notes on my computer and I've got a few chapters done. That one I'm having trouble saying goodbye to. So the writing of that is a little bit sluggish, because there's a lot more characters with, if you have a 4-book series versus a 3-book series, there's more characters. If you're writing high fantasy, there's more locations there's just more to wrap up. And I don't, that one I'm having a little bit more trouble letting go of.
You want to make sure that it's kind of a satisfying conclusion for you too.
Yeah. Plus I get new ideas and then I get distracted. I'm like, squirrel, let's write this. And I should just stay focused.
No, it's great. Readers don't always realize that we get attached to those characters too. So we don't want to sometimes say goodbye either. So
no, their characters are very alive for us. They're very,
without a doubt,
they're a part of us. And some characters are more like your personality than others, right? I've definitely written some like hot-headed, spicy characters, and I'm like, nope, not like them at all. But I admire them. I like them. They're fun to write. They're just not me. And then there's other characters that definitely are very close to who the author is, very in their habits, their talents,
yeah. You're a bit of a plantser, so a mix between a pantser and a plotter.
Yeah, that's what I've named myself, a plantser. Yeah. A hybrid, some sort of miscellaneous entity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so difficult to explain that to somebody. They're like, how do you come up with that? And it's just like, really, quite honestly, the story just sweeps you away.
Is that how you you have to have a few landmarks along the way. You can't, you have to have the conflict. For me, I need to know the ending. That's just me. And then and sometimes my best friend comes and we'll talk things out and we'll think about what might happen. And then as I'm drafting, I'll send it to her and she'll read it. And people are always like, well, wait, you just planned this with her and then she wrote it and she sent it to you and you're going to read it. Don't you already know what's going to happen? And she's like, it never stays the same, because the character will say something and I'll be like, well, obviously now we have to do this. We were going to do this, but the darn character.
I know. Sometimes you have to get them back on track a little bit. Do you ever practice dialogue out loud? I'm just curious, or if that's a me thing.
Good, but I don't. I have enough pockets of my head that they can all fit in and talk to each other. So they just kind of go at it back there.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you're working on the 4th series. Or the 4th book in the Imagine series. Do you have any plans further than that? Are you planning on staying in the YA genre and the magical realism, dystopian sort of genre?
Well, I'll never completely leave YA behind.
Right.
It is my first love.
Oh,
But that being said, I have other things I want to try. So I have a picture book that's in the works.
oh,
Yeah, well, I mean, my daughter's 5, and so in the last few years we've been reading a lot of picture books, and her friends have inspired some funny tales. And so that's an interest of mine right now. Still sticking with that dystopian um, theme genre, but maybe writing with older characters, who knows? Maybe my dark cynicism will wear off and I'll write a romance. We'll see. That might be the hardest thing, is to make it like not everybody dies.
Kill
Pretty sure
off
that's
your
frowned upon
darlings.
in romance.
Kill off your darlings. Is that the saying?
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I want to try so many things, and it'll really be about what I can fit in my schedule.
Right.
I know that there's some writers that can write multiple things at a time, and I'm that
Uh-uh.
kind of reader, but I'm not that kind of writer, because I'll forget. I've tried it before, and then my beta readers are going, this character was dead 3 chapters ago, now they're alive and talking. I'm like, oh, I forgot. I just can't. I gotta focus on one project at a time when I'm writing.
Question that I have specifically, do you write and read books at the same time, or when you're writing, do you go on hiatus from reading other authors' novels?
I want to be able to read and write at the same time, but I never seem to be, because there's only so much time. Yeah.
It's just okay, good, because
And I love reading and I want to be well read, but there's just I can't do both. I can't type and hold a book. And so maybe if like I'm writing, like I'm starting a book, because if I'm starting to write a book, it's going a little bit slower. I have to think things through and I can read. But by the time I'm at kind of mid-end of writing a book, oh, there's so many ideas and it's so exciting, and things are going. I don't have time to just sit down and read someone else's book. And I want to, but yeah, no, I tend to, it's one or the other. So I'll write something and then I'll read something. Yeah.
good. I'm glad I'm not the only one, because I'm the same way. I'm either writing or I'm reading, but I can't write and then put it down and then go read a book. I can't get out of my own headspace,
Yeah.
my
And the
own
time is
laptop.
competing against each other,
And that's
right?
true as well. Yes. Yeah. Very
Okay,
true.
my kid's asleep. It's not quite my bedtime yet. I'm gonna do some
Right.
writing. Okay, now it's bedtime.
So, a tough question. Out of the dystopian and magical realism, which is your favorite genre of those two to write?
I think it's becoming the dystopian.
I'm gonna ask you to pick a favorite kid.
I know. Well, I only have one kid, so it's okay. She's my favorite. But I think it's the dystopian, and I think it's just, I have more ideas for it. I have some concepts, some themes I want to explore. And there's a lot of world building in the dystopian, but not nearly as much as in that high fantasy. And I think my talents are just a little bit better for that dystopian low fantasy. I still love all the other stuff, and I'll definitely probably pick that up again, but I think the dystopian is my jam.
No, I'm, like I said, definitely a fan. I can't write it, but I love to read it. So and it's the same with romance or rom-coms. I enjoy reading those novels and that genre, but I can't write it convincingly.
I love historical.
Yes. Oh,
Philippa
yes.
Gregory is a genius, but I don't research. No,
See,
takes more than 10 minutes to look something up.
right.
No.
Right. Very, very
I don't
true.
care.
No, there's definitely some props to those who write historical fiction and who do that research. It's gotten easier over the years with technology and being able to research things online. God, just imagine, when historical fiction was just starting to take off, what, like in the 80s, and you had to go to the library and use the card catalog and the actual research, and take notes.
They some of them years of research, and then they travel to Scotland or
Right.
Ireland and they're taking notes and they're in museums. I'm like, that's
Right.
they're dedicated. Like, it's
Yeah,
never gonna be me, but props to them.
mad props, definitely. One other question. After this series, do you have something already that is brewing?
Of course. Yeah, I'm editing a new dystopian right now.
Oh my God.
I just finished the first draft last week, and so your reward for finishing the first draft of a book is to start at the beginning and start editing. And I'm
No.
not quite so chipper when I'm editing. My husband hasn't been home a lot lately. I'm super happy when I'm drafting, and I'm kind of,
Right.
I don't know, editing's just not as much fun. I'm good at it, but it's just not as much fun. So I'm trying to get through those edits. This one might be a duology. We'll have to see how the second book goes, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's a dystopian, definitely.
It really is. It's a necessary evil, but it is the most laborious part of the writing process, is going back through, and by the time you're done, you've read and reread your own book at least 20 times. And people, don't understand. It's like, I don't even want it. Like, the book is shelved. Like, I don't even want to look at it.
Well, my friends always like, can't you just hire an editor? I'm like, I have an editor, but
Yeah.
let's do my work first, and then she's going to give me her feedback, and then I have to do stuff with it. Then you're not just going to hand her your book and it'll come back finished. It's not really how it works.
No. And going back through and kind of cleaning up your rough is make that editing, it makes your editor a little less there's a little less work for them to do sometimes.
Yeah. Well, they can focus on
Right.
theme, character, pacing versus this sentence is wrong.
Right.
It doesn't have the right words. And yeah, it is tedious. I think it's the progress. Like, I can sit down in a night and write 3 or 4 pages. I can sit down for a night and make it through 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'm like, that's all I got through? I know. Mean, it's so much better, but ugh.
Right. You're on page 15 of a 360-page book, and you're like, kill me now.
Yeah. Looking my husband's over my shoulder being like, you should have written a shorter book. Ha. And then he runs away before I hit him. So
yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. So I have a 2-year-old. So everything gets done after dark, and I have to thus the massive amounts of caffeine. I think all authors really run on a mix of caffeine and voices in their head. But yeah, so nighttime is the time to.
Well, and I'm a teacher as well. So while I can get a lot of work done in the summer, during the school year, I still write, but it kind of ebbs and flows. Like, I'm writing lots. Oh, report card season, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then, oh, report card season's over. Oh, here's the next report card season, nothing.
What do you teach?
Right now I teach grade 1 and 2 mostly. Teach the littles.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of ready for my kid to start school.
No, don't say that, because mine is starting kindergarten in 6 weeks, and I cry every day.
Really?
So, because
yeah, I know. She's she's about to hit 2 in August, and she's hitting the terrible 2s early, I think. So
yeah, wait till 3.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so we're both in the same boat. There's a lot that gets done at night, and then by the time you kind of notice your do you ever notice your writing style, like whenever you go back to edit and you're like, I must have been really tired that night.
Or cranky, or yep.
Okay, it's not just me. You're making me feel better.
No, but you have a kid that still takes naps. Wait till that gets eliminated. No?
Yeah. She decided quite a while ago that nap time wasn't a thing anymore. So she goes to bed at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. So mommy gets very little sleep because I have to be up late.
This
And
mommy
then
invented quiet time. Oh, you don't nap anymore? That's okay. All right, go to your room. You have quiet time, and I'll see you in an hour. Don't come out of there. Just play. Sleep if you want to. Play.
She does pretty good. She has her iPad with her her learning games and stuff like that. So sometimes that will keep her occupied, but not always. It's hit or miss.
Kids are great.
Yeah, they're awesome, especially at nearly 40 years old. Kind of run out of steam a little bit. But thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. I had so much fun talking with you about your series. And guys, make sure that you check out the links in the description below. I'll have both the podcast and Jenna's Amazon page so that you can take a look at all of the books that she has in both of her series.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. And if you guys haven't already subscribed, make sure that you do so that you don't miss out on more great content that is coming later this week. And stay safe, stay healthy.
Bye.